All right, neurofeedback today. So yesterday was the day that was really a struggle for me to stay present. Felt like the conversation and just, I guess, earlier in the day, I don't know, I'd gotten to a point where I had one foot in the past thinking about home and what that meant to me, and then thinking about building our new house and how that is. So I had a foot in the future. I was like straddling the present, where one in the past, one in the future. And so my mind just like kept going. It was really difficult for me yesterday to focus on the show, being in the present, surrendering to the process. So today when I went in, I made a conscious effort to set the intention beforehand, before going in, that I was going to, regardless of how much fluctuation there was going to be in what was being measured, that I was just going to let it be. I was going to do everything I know on my end that I can do, as far as like relaxing my body, making sure I'm not holding. What I've noticed recently, and I think it's because I now know I do more like body scans more frequently, and I'm more aware of where I'm holding tension, that I do a lot of like scalp and like side of my face like lifts and pulls, and I don't know why. Is it like it's obviously some sort of habitual something that I've been doing. But anyway, like realizing that I can like relax my jaw and my ears and let the tongue like drop from the top of your mouth. So that's been pretty interesting to see how frequently I feel myself like tensing there, and I was like, ooh, okay, relax that part of my body. So anyway, doing those things like physically, and then like I take my shoes off when I'm in there, and it's this comfy leather chair, not like a recliner per se, but like it's a comfy chair, and there's a little ottoman. And I used to think I was like, ottoman, is that the word I mean? It is, the footstool situation. Anyway, I kick off my shoes, and then I get comfy. Like that is helpful to me. I really need to like pull my feet up, and kind of like my hands are always cold, so I kind of like wedge them in between my legs so that my hands aren't chilly, and I just kind of find the deep breath, let it all the way out, and kind of like remind myself to surrender to the process. So that's what I did today. So what's interesting is, though, everything went down today. It was easier for me to focus just on the episode of the Jetsons that I was watching. It's the one where they get Astrid, the dog. And doing just like frequent check-ins with myself when I felt a little like, okay. I was like, where are my tens? All right. And then focus on something in the show. So I was able to do that, which is great. And overall, the numbers went down. Bar graph had the downward trajectory, so that's great. Felt better today. But what's interesting is I had told Stephen beforehand, that, so last night we'd gone to the Galleria, did some shopping, and we had dinner at Daily Grill, and I had gotten the trout almondine and broccoli as my side, and I got lentil soup, but I didn't eat a ton of it because I felt full. And I've been really focusing on intuitive eating, where I'm wanting to break the old habits around food. So the best way I can do that is to really feed myself good, healthy food, fats, carbs, proteins that aren't super processed, that will actually fuel my body. Food for fuel, right? Higher protein meals so that I feel fuller and energized. And like the more I delve into my studying for my nutrition certification, nutrition coach, I just the science behind it, and how interesting that like what your body needs to function, and like your brain needs fat and protein. and carbohydrate. Like, your body is made up of these things, and you need to, like, it's just super interesting. So anyhow, to me anyway. So I've been more mindfully eating. So when I feel hungry, or when I think I'm hungry, I really step back and I'm like, okay, am I thirsty? So my biggest thing has been drink a cup of room temperature water, and then give myself like 10 minutes and be like, okay, am I hungry or was I thirsty? Because honestly, that happens a lot. And then I also ask myself, okay, am I bored? Is it just this habitual, like I'm sitting watching a show, I feel like I should be snacking on something, you know what I mean? So that's what I mean about breaking those habits. So I'm intuitively eating. I'm mindfully eating my meals so that, like, I acknowledge when my body is trying to tell me it's full. I don't have to finish everything on my plate. That's okay. I don't have to do that. Anyhow, but like that being said, last night I stopped eating when I was full, so that meant I didn't really finish this lentil soup that I'm gonna go eat for lunch, honestly, now that I'm headed home. But it satiated me. But then when I woke up this morning to go do my workout, I have coffee in the morning before I go to my workout, but I get up at 5, my workout's at 6:15. So I'm not eating anything before I go do that workout. So what I'm noticing is I need a more substantial dinner the night before to help fuel that workout. And then I have protein shake or protein powder with my water and a banana after, like right after the workout on the way home. And then I eat breakfast after I shower. So it's like, I'm really kind of sussing out, figuring out nutrition wise, like what I need when and what my body is telling me. So the workout this morning was actually really difficult, and I'm realizing it's because I didn't have adequate fuel in my body to complete it to what I wanted. Anyhow, so really big benefit is being able to zoom out and awareness of things, awareness of where I feel like I'm lacking in my intake of things. Awareness of what my body's trying to tell me. So what's interesting though is how much that physiology is displayed mentally. So like your brain needs glucose, your brain needs protein, your brain it needs it. So I was having these spikes. It was so interesting because he's like, overall you had a really great like low levels of where we want them to be, nice and low. Great job. You were able to calm your mind and let your brain do the work on the unconscious level, and you were, surrendering to the process of what's happening and not trying to overthink it or control it. However, look at these spikes. He's like, remember, these dips here are insulin spikes. It's your body needs more. And I was like, this is so wild. So it's like, I knew that, and then it was so wild to see that then verified and like validated on this brain scan while I was doing it. Anyway, so all that to say, I'm hungry for a really good lunch. Learning about mind, body, all of it. Also, just fun little side note, anecdote that he shared with me. He's such a wealth of knowledge. Like, honestly, I feel like very informed, not just about neurofeedback. Like, he's got so much just knowledge under his belt from all the different like various psychology things that he's done. He's just had such a vast career that he's just so interesting to pick his brain. So pick his brain, you guys. I made an unintentional neurofeedback joke because brain. Anyway, oh, that was such a dad joke. I digress. We were talking about coffee, and I was like, well, I have coffee, and then I go to my workout. And he was saying how he also drinks coffee, but for a point in his life he didn't. And he said, do you know what's the difference? So the difference between coffee and tea, it's not just caffeine. So what happens with coffee that does not happen with tea? So and even ones he was saying that like English breakfast that have like very comparable amounts of caffeine in them to coffee, like comparison wise. And he said it also has this there's an element to coffee that causes cortisol to spike within humans when consumed. So when cortisol spikes, you get this complementary good feeling of adrenaline. So it's much more of like a quicker pick me up, get up and go. So that's part of why I think there's a plastic bag stuck under my car that I'm hearing like wave around frantically. I saw it in front of me and I guess it got all caught up in my car. Oh, it sure is. It's on the it's on the front of my car going doesn't matter. Anyhow, so with tea, that's not the case. So you're definitely getting the caffeine from whatever tea you may be drinking, but with coffee, that's why so cortisol is the nickname, the stress hormone. It's something that when you're in a constant state of stress, cortisol is very high, right? Now, evolutionarily speaking, our bodies are in a place where if your cortisol is raised constantly, your body thinks that a famine is coming because of evolution and how it was hunter-gatherers a long time ago. So it holds on to fat. It's going to hold on to your weight because it assumes it needs it because you're in this constant state of stress. How interesting is that? So he had a professor or someone who was leading this workshop that he was at who said, if you give up coffee, if you are a coffee drinker and you give up coffee for 9 weeks, you will lose 5 pounds. If you change nothing else, you eat the same amount of calories, same amount of exercise. If you let go of coffee, yes, you're going to have like a week to 10 days of caffeine headaches, most likely, withdrawal. But so he said, he's like, after I had heard that, he was like, oh, that's so interesting. He gave up coffee, Stephen did, and he lost 15 pounds. And I was like, that's insane, dude. Like, that's wild. And so people who drink coffee, lots and lots and lots of coffee, or especially like all throughout the day, think of like that cortisol spike happening. So yeah, you get that adrenaline, but that's in conjunction with that cortisol raising, and you don't want high cortisol. So that was just so wild to me. And I was explaining to him how, and I think this is like a pretty common thing with pregnancy. When I was pregnant with Liv, there was coffee every day. Every day in the morning I would have coffee, the whole like ritual element of it, of having it and sipping it and slow and that, right? But it was, it was within the first trimester. I had actually gotten these really good smelling coffee beans and I'd poured them in this like clear container, and I had read, or I guess it was probably on Pinterest, if you stick your makeup brushes in it, it helps them stand upright and it doesn't like warp the bristles because they're not like leaning. And it was like an interesting, good smelling way to put your brushes out. And so I had done that and I loved it for like a week. And then I remember I was like, that smell is going to make me vomit. Like I couldn't handle even the smell of coffee, which I adore. So I thought that was wild, like my body. And then I obviously didn't want to drink it because I couldn't even handle the smell of it. But my body, when Liv was within me, it was like you don't need all that caffeine. You don't need all of that happening. I'm going to give you an aversion to it so that you're not craving it and like consuming too much of it. So I thought that was pretty wild. But that was the only time in my adult life that I like quit coffee. And then eventually when she, I guess probably when I was still breastfeeding, I honestly don't know. But at one point I got myself back onto it. So I very much want to do a science experiment where cut out coffee and just see how that goes, like hormonally, like with the cortisol and stuff. That's so insane to me. I love that. Our bodies and our brains are so wild and they work so much in conjunction with each other. It's just insane. Okay, I'm off to a delicious lunch.